So I thought it would be interesting to kind of go over some of the players in their setups and shot making abilities for this past weekend's Players Championship. First thing I'd like to bring to your attention, just from a setup standpoint, with Webb Simpson here. Again, hitting two different shots, one off the tee, obviously on the left with a driver, and then an approach shot with an iron. And a common thing that I see players do is they set up pretty much the same way, whether they're hitting their driver or their irons. Now, we don't have a head-on view here, but we do have a down the line. And you can start to see when you actually compare setups, they look quite different. And one of the things that's, I would say, very different, or pretty apparent here, is that the way the arms hang down from the shoulders is quite a bit different. And the main reason that should be is that the club, obviously driver's a longer club, we typically stand further away from the ball, and so we want to have this sense of our arms kind of working away from our body a little bit. So those are, pretty easy to see once you put the lines on there, the differences there. The other thing, again, and a lot of great players do this, a lot of good players do it, is posture. If you look at the angles created in posture, one thing that I'm always looking at is, if I draw a little bit thicker line here, and I'll draw the same yellow line here, I'm looking at how the belt is angled in setup. So this is pretty good, and you can go through just about any player over this weekend, and you're going to see that their belt, whether they're hitting a driver or an iron, their belt, when they're in good posture, is going to be tilted down towards the ball. What I see a lot of times in poor setups is I'll actually see a belt line that's level. And the more the belt is level, the more rounding you'll get in your upper body. And the more rounded your back is, the harder it is to turn. So next time you're hitting your irons and driver, just double check your setup. Make sure your arms are hanging under your shoulders for your setup with your irons, and make sure they're away from you a little bit more. With your driver, you're going to feel a sense of standing a little bit taller with the driver. So that's the first swing that I'd like to look at. And then the second would be more of a shot making skills. Here's Danny Lee. I'm not sure. He's on the 18th hole. He hit it right off the tee, and he has this really difficult punch shot that he's trying to. Let me see if I can't get the other picture here. Down the line. Here we go. So he is hitting it. He is trying to hit this ball through this corridor right here, which is a pretty difficult shot. I'm not sure how far away that is, but that looks like it's probably a good 40 yards in front of him, 40 to 50 yards, and he's got to hit it through this tight hole. Now, first things first, if you're not 90% confident you can pull this shot off on the golf course, I would not be trying for this. I would call it a miracle shot. If you're the average golfer, you're going to go over here into that box. All right. But as far as how we hit a lower punch shot, one thing, I wish I had a forward view of this, but one thing you will notice is that, look where this ball is. It's right in front of his right foot. A ball that's more to the right in your stance, when you strike it, normally will have, or it'll produce lower loft on the club, and it'll produce lower trajectories. Okay, that's one element that creates that. The other is, I don't know exactly what club he's using here, but I'd venture to say it's probably a 3 or a 4 iron. That also gives you a little bit lower trajectory. Now, if you look at the finishes here, so I'm going to just play this. So he's hit it. One thing that he's doing is he's actually leaning this handle of the club more forward, so the butt end of the club is closer to the target than the head of the club at impact, and that helps to produce lower ball flight. But if you look at his finish, He's kind of finishing low and to the left. See how low his hands are right there? And this is a key component to hitting low trajectories, is that the finishes will tend to be low. Compared to, this is Danny Lee hitting an approach shot to the green, and you'll start to see, again, a difference in the look. So the higher hands will typically produce higher ball flights. Lower hands in the finish will typically produce lower ball flights. So if you're struggling with those punch shots from under the trees and you're having a hard time keeping it low, take a look at Danny Lee's setup here and see if you can't improve those low punch shots.